The message arrived at every major government in the galaxy at the same time. The Galactic Council needed help, and they needed it now. The Krell Dominion had started a war, and they were winning. 3 colonies had already been destroyed. Millions were dead. Trade routes that connected hundreds of worlds were now controlled by Krell warships. Every species that wanted to remain in good standing with the Council had to send their military forces to help stop the Krell advance. The meeting point was a region of space called the Disputed Sectors, right at the edge of Krell territory. Ambassador Velric stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched as the Allied fleet gathered. The Threnian Assembly, his own people, had sent 47 warships. It was the largest military force his species had assembled in over a century. The Zendari Collective brought 32 heavy cruisers, each one powerful enough to level a city. Even the peaceful Orphean people sent 19 ships to help defend innocent lives. The display screen showed ship after ship arriving. Velric felt a sense of pride. The galaxy was coming together. They would show the Krell that aggression had consequences. His aide, a young officer named Kellis, was monitoring the arrival schedules. Each species had been given a specific time window to arrive, making sure ships did not accidentally crash into each other when coming out of faster-than-light travel. "Ambassador, the human arrival window is opening now," Kellis reported. Velric nodded. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community. They had only joined the Council 15 years ago. Before that, nobody even knew they existed. Their planet, Earth, was in a quiet corner of the galaxy that most species had never bothered to explore. But humans had proven to be quick learners. They had eagerly studied galactic technology, established trade relationships, and set up embassies on dozens of worlds. Velric had met a few humans over the years and found them to be pleasant enough, if a bit strange in their thinking. The space in front of the fleet shimmered as a ship prepared to emerge from faster-than-light travel. Velric expected to see a formation of human warships, perhaps a dozen or 20 vessels. Humans had a fairly large population and significant industrial capacity. They should be able to contribute meaningfully to the fleet. A single ship appeared. Velric stared at the display screen. He blinked his large eyes and checked again. Just one ship. It was certainly a large ship, bigger than most of the vessels in the assembled fleet, but it was still only one ship. "Kellis, are you sure that is the only human vessel?" Velric asked. His aide ran the scans 3 times. "Yes, Ambassador. Only one ship detected. The identification system shows it as the UHSV Relentless. The commanding officer is listed as Captain Jack Morrison." Velric felt his antennae droop in disappointment. Perhaps there had been some mistake. Maybe the humans misunderstood the request, or perhaps their military was not as developed as he had assumed. "Try to contact them," Velric ordered. "Let us find out what is happening." The communications officer worked for a moment, then nodded. "They are responding, Ambassador. Putting them on the main screen now." The display changed from showing the starfield to showing the interior of the human ship's bridge. A human male sat in the command chair. He appeared to be middle-aged by human standards, with short brown hair that was turning gray on the sides. His eyes were a calm blue color, and he wore a dark blue uniform with simple rank insignia on the collar. "This is Captain Jack Morrison of the Relentless," the human said. His voice was steady and relaxed. "How can we help you, Ambassador Velric?" Velric tried to phrase his question diplomatically. "Captain Morrison, we are very pleased that humanity has answered the Council's call for assistance. However, our sensors are showing only your vessel. We were expecting a larger contribution from Earth's forces. Are there other ships coming?" Jack Morrison smiled slightly. It was not a mocking smile, but rather the expression of someone who knew something amusing that others did not. "No, Ambassador. The Relentless is humanity's contribution to this operation. We are ready to take whatever position in the fleet formation you think is best." There was a long pause. Velric did not know what to say. In the background of the transmission, he could see other human crew members working at their stations. They all seemed calm and focused, as if nothing was wrong. "Captain Morrison, I mean no disrespect to you or your crew," Velric said carefully. "But surely you must understand the situation. The Krell have brought over 300 warships to this region. They have been destroying everything in their path. Our combined fleet has nearly 200 ships, and we are not certain that will be enough. One ship, no matter how large, cannot make a significant difference in this battle." The human captain leaned back in his chair. His calm expression never changed. Ambassador, I appreciate your concern, but humanity sent exactly what was needed. The Relentless is fully capable of fulfilling our commitment to the Council. Just tell us where you want us, and we will be there. Velric opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. What could he say? The humans had sent what they sent. Arguing about it would not conjure more ships out of empty space. Very well, Captain. Please take up position at coordinates that my tactical officer will send to you. We will incorporate your ship into our defensive formation. Understood, Ambassador. We will move into position immediately. Relentless out, the transmission ended. Velric turned to Kellis, who looked just as confused as he felt. What do we do, Ambassador? The young officer asked. Velric sat down heavily in his command chair. We adjust our battle plan to account for having one less fleet than we expected. Contact the other fleet commanders. We need to redistribute our forces to cover the gap the humans were supposed to fill. For the next several hours, Velric worked with the other military leaders to reorganize their strategy. It was frustrating work. Every calculation had assumed certain numbers of ships would be available. Now they had to make do with less. Through it all, Velric kept glancing at the sensor display showing the human ship. The Relentless had moved into its assigned position and was holding steady. It just sat there quiet and still, waiting. Velric could not shake a strange feeling. Captain Morrison had not seemed embarrassed or apologetic about bringing only one ship. He had not made excuses or promised that reinforcements were coming. He had simply stated that his ship was what humanity sent, and that it would be enough. Either the human captain was delusional, or he knew something that nobody else in the fleet knew. Velric hoped it was the latter, because in about 6 hours the Krell fleet would arrive, and then they would all find out just how much difference one human ship could make. The waiting was the hardest part. All across the Allied fleet, crews prepared for battle. Weapons were charged, shields were tested, and damage control teams stood ready. Everyone knew what was coming. The Krell did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They simply attacked and destroyed everything in their path. Velric tried to rest, but sleep would not come. He kept thinking about the humans and their single ship. In 15 years, humanity had gone from not knowing aliens existed to sending a warship to fight in a major battle. What had they learned in that time? What kind of ship had they built? He pulled up the information file on the Relentless. The technical data was limited. Humans kept most of their military specifications classified, which was not unusual, but the basic information was startling. The ship was nearly 2 kilometers long, far larger than a typical warship. It massed more than some space stations. The power readings were unusual. The numbers did not quite make sense. Velric was still studying the data when the alarm sounded. Kellis rushed to his station, his hands moving quickly across the controls. Ambassador, the Krell fleet is arriving. Multiple contacts coming out of faster-than-light travel. Counting ships now. 200, 250, 312 ships confirmed. Velric stood up, his body tense. This was it. All ships, battle stations. Prepare to engage. Across the Allied fleet, hundreds of captains and thousands of crew members prepared to fight. The Krell were here, and there was no turning back now. And somewhere in the middle of the defensive formation, on the bridge of the Relentless, Captain Jack Morrison watched the Krell fleet appear on his display screens and smiled. The bridge of Admiral Kress's flagship was filled with the sounds of battle. Alarms blared as systems reported damage. Officers shouted updates as more ships fell to the human vessel's weapons. And through it all, Kress sat in his command chair, trying to understand how this was possible. In 17 major battles, he had never encountered anything like this. The human ship was not just fighting, it was dominating. Every weapon system on that vessel seemed designed to kill Krell ships as efficiently as possible. And no matter how much firepower the Krell fleet threw at it, the human ship kept coming. Concentrate all forward ships on the human vessel, Kress ordered. Surround it. Overwhelm its shields through sustained fire. Admiral, we have already lost over 100 ships trying that strategy, his tactical officer protested. Perhaps we should withdraw and regroup. We do not retreat, Kress snarled. We are the Krell Dominion. We have conquered a dozen star systems. We will not be defeated by one ship crewed by a species that only learned about space travel a few generations ago. Yes, Admiral. Over 150 Krell warships moved to surround the Relentless. They formed a sphere around the human ship. Every weapon pointed inward. On Cress's order, they all fired at once. The amount of energy directed at the Relentless was staggering. It was enough power to crack a planet's crust or boil away an ocean. The human ship's shields lit up like a star going supernova. Sensor readings went off the scale as the shields absorbed and redirected the massive energy bombardment. On the Relentless's bridge, the lights dimmed as power was diverted to the shields. The deck vibrated beneath everyone's feet. Warning indicators flashed across multiple stations. Shield status, Jack ordered. Forward shields down to 42%. Starboard shields at 51%. Port shields at 48%. Aft shields still at 67%, the defensive officer reported quickly. All shield generators are operating beyond normal parameters but remain stable. Cooling systems are working at maximum capacity. Damage? Hull breaches on decks 9 and 11. Emergency bulkheads have sealed the affected areas. Casualties reported. Medical teams responding. We have lost 2 railgun batteries on the starboard side. All other weapon systems remain operational. Jack processed this information quickly. The Relentless was taking damage, but nothing critical yet. The ship had been built with massive redundancy. Losing a few systems would not stop her. Helm, full power to engines. Take us through their formation. Let us get in close where their numbers work against them. Yes, Captain. The Relentless accelerated forward, her massive bulk pushing through space directly toward the wall of Krell ships. The enemy vessels had to scatter or risk being rammed. As they moved apart, the Relentless found itself in the middle of the Krell formation. Weapons fire at will. Target everything around us. Lieutenant Harris did not need to be told twice. At this range, the Relentless could not miss. Railgun rounds tore through Krell ships at point-blank range. Missiles detonated mere meters after launching. Energy weapons carved through armor like it was paper. The Krell had wanted to surround the human ship. They got their wish. But now they discovered the problem with surrounding something much more powerful than you. They were trapped in close quarters with a predator. Target the ship to port, Deck 3, Section 7, Harris called out. Firing. A Krell destroyer exploded as a railgun round punched through its reactor. The explosion was close enough that debris bounced off the Relentless's shields. New target directly ahead, heavy cruiser. Firing missiles. 6 missiles streaked out and impacted the cruiser's bridge. The ship went dark as its command systems failed. Starboard side, 2 frigates attempting to flank us, engaging with energy weapons. The battle had turned into chaos. The Krell ships were too close together. When they fired at the Relentless and missed, they hit their own ships. The human vessel moved through the formation like a shark through a school of fish, dealing destruction in every direction. Admiral Kress watched in horror as his carefully planned assault fell apart. All ships break off. Withdraw to minimum engagement range. But giving that order and having it followed were 2 different things. The Krell ships were tangled up with the human vessel. Breaking away meant exposing their engines to weapons fire. Several captains tried to retreat and were destroyed in the attempt. Admiral, we have lost 143 ships, the tactical officer reported. His voice had lost all confidence. 79 more are heavily damaged and withdrawing. Our formation is completely broken. Kress stared at the tactical display. In less than an hour, the human ship had destroyed nearly half his fleet. This was not a battle anymore. It was a slaughter. Prepare my personal shuttle, Kress said quietly. I am transferring my flag to the command ship in the second wave. Admiral, you cannot abandon your flagship. I am not abandoning it, Kress said coldly. I am ensuring that someone survives to report what happened here. The Dominion must know about this human weapon. On the Relentless, Jack Morrison watched as the Krell formation finally broke apart. Enemy ships were fleeing in all directions, desperate to get away from the human vessel. Cease fire, Jack ordered. Let them go. Captain, we could pursue and destroy the remainder of their fleet, Lisa Grant said. No, Commander. Our mission was to stop the Krell advance and protect the disputed sectors. That mission is accomplished. Besides, we want some of them to return home. They need to tell their leaders what happened here. Lisa nodded slowly. Send a message. 1 ship from a species the Krell thought was weak destroyed their fleet. Exactly. Jack turned to the communications officer. Contact Ambassador Velric. Inform him that the Krell are retreating and that we will hold position until they are clear of sensor range. Yes, sir. The transmission went through quickly. Velric's face appeared on the screen. The Thranian ambassador looked like he had aged several years in the past hour. His antennae drooped and his large eyes were wider than normal. Captain Morrison, Velric said slowly, I do not know what to say. What you have done here, it should not have been possible. We did what was necessary, Ambassador. The Krell will think twice before attacking Council space again. Captain, I must ask, how is this possible? How did humanity build such a vessel? Our scientists are studying the sensor readings from the battle, and the numbers do not make sense. The power output from your ship alone exceeds what should be physically possible for a mobile platform. Jack smiled slightly. Ambassador, when humanity joined the Galactic Council, we learned that the universe was far more dangerous than we had imagined. We learned about species like the Krell who believed that might makes right. We decided that if we were going to have a military, we would build one that worked. The Relentless represents our answer to the question of how to protect ourselves and our allies. But one ship, Captain. You brought one ship and defeated an armada. We brought the right ship, Ambassador. That is the difference. Velric was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that was clearly bothering him most. Captain Morrison, is the Relentless your only ship like this? Jack's smile widened slightly. That, Ambassador, is classified information. But I will tell you this much. Humanity takes the defense of our people and our allies very seriously. If the Council ever needs our help again, we will answer that call. Of that I have no doubt. Velric said quietly. Captain, on behalf of the Galactic Council, thank you. You have saved countless lives today. Just doing our duty, Ambassador. The Council welcomed humanity when we were new to the galaxy. We have not forgotten that kindness. Relentless out, the transmission ended. Jack stood and stretched, feeling the tension leave his body. Around him, the bridge crew allowed themselves to relax slightly. They had fought their first real battle, and they had won decisively. All departments report status, Jack ordered. The reports came in quickly. Despite the intensity of the battle, the Relentless had suffered relatively minor damage. The hull breaches were sealed. Casualties were light, mostly minor injuries from people being thrown around when the ship took hits. All critical systems were functioning normally. Well done, everyone, Jack said to his crew. You all performed excellently. Lieutenant Harris, that was outstanding targeting work. You made every shot count. Thank you, Captain, Harris replied with a grin. Commander Grant, make sure all department heads submit full after-action reports. I want to know what worked and what we need to improve. Yes, sir. Jack sat back down in his command chair. Through the view screen, he could see the remains of the Krell fleet limping away, heading back to their own territory. Some of the ships were barely functional, trailing atmosphere and debris. They would spread the word about what happened here. The Krell had learned an important lesson today. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not unprepared. And humanity would defend the innocent, even if it meant standing alone against overwhelming odds. Except, as it turned out, the odds had not been overwhelming at all, not when humanity brought the right tools to the fight. Helm, maintain position, Jack ordered. We stay here until the Krell are completely gone. Then we set course for the Council headquarters. I suspect the Ambassador will have many more questions for us. Yes, Captain. The Relentless hung in space, a silent guardian keeping. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Every member species sent their representatives to the Great Hall on the Council homeworld. The massive chamber could hold thousands of beings, and today it was completely full. Ambassador Velric had spent those 3 days reviewing the battle data over and over. He had consulted with military experts from 6 different species. He had read reports from every ship captain who witnessed the fight. And every analysis came to the same impossible conclusion. One human ship had defeated a Krell armada of over 300 vessels. Not just defeated, but destroyed or crippled nearly half of them with minimal damage to itself. The readings showed power outputs that should have been impossible. Weapons technology that surpassed anything in the known galaxy. Defensive systems that could absorb punishment that would destroy any other vessel. How had humanity done this? They were newcomers to the galactic stage. 15 years ago, they did not even know aliens existed. Now they had built something that changed everything. Velric walked to the speaker's platform at the center of the Great Hall. Thousands of eyes from hundreds of species watched him. Everyone wanted to hear about the human ship. Members of the Council, Velric began. His voice was transmitted through translator devices so every species could understand. I have submitted my complete report on the engagement in the disputed sectors. You all have access to the data. What the human vessel Relentless accomplished should not have been possible. But it happened. I witnessed it with my own eyes. A representative from the Zendari collective stood. The Zendari were known for their own strong military forces. Ambassador Velric, we have reviewed your data carefully. Our analysts first believed there must be errors in the recordings. The power requirements alone should be impossible for a mobile platform. We need to understand how humanity achieved this. Before Velric could respond, the doors to the Great Hall opened. 3 humans entered, walking with quiet confidence. The crowd fell silent as Captain Jack Morrison, still in his formal dark blue uniform, made his way toward the center platform. Commander Lisa Grant and Lieutenant Ben Harris walked beside him. The council speaker, an ancient being whose species had founded the council thousands of years ago, gestured for Jack to approach. Captain Morrison, you are welcome to address this assembly. The council has many questions about your vessel and your military capabilities. Jack walked to the center platform where a holographic display system allowed him to show information to the entire assembly. He activated it with a touch, and an image of Earth appeared in the air, slowly rotating. Members of the council, Jack said clearly, I am Captain Jack Morrison of the United Human Space Vessel Relentless. Before I answer your questions, I want to tell you a story about humanity. The image changed to show human cities, farms, schools, and families, children playing, people working, normal life on a peaceful world. 15 years ago, humanity made first contact with the Threnian assembly. Before that day, we had no idea we were not alone in the universe. We thought Earth was the only world with intelligent life. When we learned the truth, everything changed for us. The display showed images of early human-alien meetings. Humans staring in wonder at their first sight of alien technology, diplomats shaking hands or equivalent gestures with beings from other worlds. We learned about the Galactic Council. We learned about trade and diplomacy and cooperation between species. We also learned about the dangers in the galaxy. We learned about species like the Krell who believe that strength gives them the right to take whatever they want. We learned about wars and conflicts that have lasted for centuries. Jack paused, letting his words sink in. The Great Hall was completely silent now. Everyone was listening. Humanity faced a choice. We could remain as we were, dependent on other species to protect us, or we could take responsibility for our own survival. We chose to protect ourselves. The display changed to show massive shipyards in orbit around Earth and Mars, huge construction facilities where enormous vessels were being built. The representatives in the hall leaned forward, fascinated despite themselves. We studied every piece of technology we could access. We learned from species like the Thranians, the Zendari, and the Orpheans. But we also brought something of our own to the process. We brought human engineering philosophy. A detailed schematic of the Relentless appeared, rotating slowly to show its structure. The assembled representatives stared at the complexity of the design. So many systems all working together in ways that should not have been possible. Most species build fleets of specialized ships, Jack explained. Cruisers for direct combat, destroyers for speed and maneuverability, carriers for fighter craft. Each ship has a specific role. Humanity asked a different question. What if we built one ship that could do everything? What if we pushed every system to its limit and then found ways to push even harder? The schematic zoomed in on the ship's power core. It was a complex system that combined fusion reactors with zero-point energy extraction, technologies that other species kept separate because combining them was considered too dangerous. We developed new power generation systems because the existing ones were not sufficient. We created new materials because standard armor could not handle the forces we needed to contain. We designed weapons that pushed the boundaries of physics because anything less would not be good enough. A representative from the Orphean Collective, a species known for scientific achievement, stood up. Captain, what you describe sounds like a ship that should tear itself apart from internal stresses. How do you maintain structural integrity? Jack nodded. That was our biggest challenge. We had to invent entirely new field systems to contain the forces involved. The Relentless has a structural reinforcement network that constantly adjusts and compensates for stress in real time. It monitors thousands of points across the ship and makes corrections faster than any crew member could react. It is not perfect, but it works. The Zendari representative spoke again. Captain Morrison, you said the Relentless pushes systems to their limits. What happens if something fails? Surely the risk of catastrophic malfunction is enormous. You are correct, Jack admitted. The Relentless is a dangerous ship to operate. Every system has multiple redundancies, but the power levels we work with mean that any major failure could destroy the ship. That is why our crew trains for years before they are allowed to serve on vessels like this. They need to understand not just how to operate the systems, but how to recognize when something is about to go wrong and fix it before disaster happens. He paused and looked around the hall. The Relentless is not easy to build. It is not easy to crew. It is expensive, complicated, and pushes the boundaries of what is safe. But it works. And it allows humanity to defend ourselves and our allies against any threat. The council speaker leaned forward. Captain Morrison, you said vessels like the Relentless. Does humanity have more than one of these ships? The great hall fell silent again. This was the question everyone wanted answered. How many of these impossible warships did humanity possess? Jack smiled slightly. That information is classified. But I can tell you that the Relentless is our first capital ship of this class. She is a proof of concept. We are learning from her performance and using that knowledge to improve future designs. Another representative stood. Captain, if humanity has the ability to build ships like this, why did you only send one to help us against the Krell? Surely a fleet of such vessels would have been even more effective. We sent what was needed, Jack replied simply. The Relentless was sufficient to stop the Krell advance and protect the disputed sectors. Sending more ships would not have changed the outcome, only made the battle end faster. We saw no reason to show more of our capabilities than necessary. Velric understood what Jack was really saying. Humanity wanted other species to know they were strong, but they did not want to reveal all their secrets. They were being strategic, showing enough to be taken seriously, but keeping their full capabilities hidden. Smart, Velric thought. Very smart, a voice came from the back of the hall. What if someone asks humanity to share this technology with other species? Surely the Council would benefit if all our fleets were equipped with such powerful ships. Jack's expression became more serious. We would respectfully decline such requests. This technology is dangerous. The Relentless requires a crew trained to handle systems that operate beyond normal safety limits. One mistake, one miscalculation, and the ship could destroy itself and everything around it. Humanity has spent 15 years preparing our people to safely operate vessels like this. We are not ready to export that knowledge to species who have not undergone similar preparation. The hall erupted into discussion. Some representatives seemed to accept this explanation. Others appeared frustrated or even angry. A few looked afraid, realizing that humanity now possessed military power that exceeded most other council members. The council speaker raised a hand, and the hall quieted. Captain Morrison, on behalf of the Galactic Council, we thank humanity for your intervention against the Krell. You saved countless lives and demonstrated that the Council stands united against aggression. Jack nodded respectfully. The Council welcomed humanity when we... After the Council meeting ended, Ambassador Velric found Captain Jack Morrison in one of the quiet corridors outside the Great Hall. The human was walking with his two officers, discussing something in low voices. When Velric approached, Jack stopped and nodded politely. Ambassador Velric, how can I help you? Velric gestured to a small side room where they could speak privately. Jack agreed, and the two of them stepped inside while the other officers waited in the corridor. Captain, I wanted to speak with you away from the formal setting, Velric said. What you did in the disputed sectors, what you revealed to the Council today, it changes everything. The balance of power in this region of space has shifted. Jack leaned against a table, his expression thoughtful. I suppose it has. But that was not our goal. Humanity did not build the Relentless to threaten anyone. We built it to make sure that species like the Krell cannot victimize innocent people without consequences. I understand that, Velric said, but you must see how other species will view this. For 15 years, humanity was seen as newcomers, younger than most civilizations. Now you have demonstrated military capabilities that exceed established powers, who have been exploring space for thousands of years. Some will be grateful. Others will be afraid. And a few might be angry. Jack nodded slowly. We expected that reaction. Change is always uncomfortable, especially when it happens quickly. But Ambassador, I need to ask you something. When the Krell were destroying colonies and threatening this entire sector, where were those established powers? They sent ships, yes. They showed up to fight, but they sent fleets that were barely adequate. If the Relentless had not been there, would the Council have won that battle? Velric was silent. He had asked himself the same question many times over the past few days. The honest answer was probably not. The Allied fleet had been outnumbered. The Krell had better weapons and more experience. Without the human ship, the battle would have been long, bloody, and might have ended in defeat. No, Velric admitted quietly. We probably would have lost. Many ships would have been destroyed. The Krell would have continued their expansion. You are right about that. I am not saying this to criticize the Council or any of its members, Jack said gently. But humanity looked at the galaxy and saw that good intentions are not enough. Having laws and treaties is meaningless if nobody can enforce them. Someone needs to be strong enough to stand up to aggressors. We decided to be that someone. A heavy responsibility, Velric observed. Very heavy, Jack agreed. That is why we are careful about how we use this power. We did not pursue the Krell fleet when they retreated. We could have destroyed every last ship, but we chose to let them go. We wanted to stop their aggression, not commit genocide. That restraint is just as important as the ship's capabilities. Velric's antennae twitched, a sign of approval among his people. You are wiser than I first thought, Captain. When I saw your ship arrive alone, I believed humanity was being foolish or arrogant. I was wrong. You knew exactly what you were doing, Jack smiled. To be fair, we did want to make a statement. Sending one ship when everyone expected a fleet sends a message. It says that humanity is confident in our abilities. It says we think differently than other species, and it makes potential enemies uncertain about what else we might be hiding. Are you hiding other capabilities? Of course, Jack said without hesitation. Any competent military keeps secrets. The Relentless is impressive, but she is not humanity's only asset. We have other ships, other weapons, other strategies. I cannot tell you what they are, but I can tell you they exist. Velric considered this. And if another threat emerges? If some new danger appears that threatens the Council? Will humanity answer that call as well? Yes, Jack said simply. We are members of this Council. We benefit from the trade, the knowledge sharing, the diplomatic relationships. We will defend those benefits and the species who made them possible. That is the deal we made when we joined. And humanity keeps its promises. Even if it means putting your people in danger. Ambassador, the galaxy is dangerous whether we fight or hide. At least if we fight, we have some control over the outcome, and we have shown that when humanity commits to something, we do it properly. The Relentless is proof of that. Velric stood and extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship that he had learned years ago. Jack shook it firmly. Captain Morrison, I believe humanity will be a valuable member of the Galactic Council for many years to come. I look forward to working with you in the future. As do I, Ambassador. As do I. They left the side room and rejoined the others. As Velric walked away, he heard Commander Grant speaking quietly to Jack. Captain, we are receiving new orders from Earth. They want us to return home for a refit and crew evaluation. Understood. How long until we can depart? We can leave within 6 hours if needed. All systems are green and ready. Good. Make the necessary arrangements. The crew has earned some time off. Velric continued walking, but he thought about what he had overheard. The Relentless was going back to Earth, for upgrades probably, for improvements based on what they learned in the battle, and while she was there, other ships were likely being completed. Ships that might be even more advanced than the Relentless. The galaxy was changing. The old powers who had dominated for so long were going to have to adjust to new realities. Humanity was no longer a minor player that could be ignored or dismissed. They were a force that demanded respect and attention. 5 days later, the Relentless arrived in Earth's solar system. The massive ship passed by Mars, where construction facilities showed several other large vessels in various stages of completion. Jack watched them through the viewscreen with satisfaction. How many are under construction now? He asked Lisa Grant. 3 more ships of the Relentless class, she replied, plus 2 of the newer design, the ones with the improved power systems. And I heard rumors that the shipyards on the moon are working on something even bigger, but that is classified above my clearance level. Jack nodded. Humanity is committed to this path now. We are building a fleet that can protect not just Earth, but human colonies and our allies throughout the galaxy. It will take time, but eventually we will have enough ships to make sure peace is maintained. Do you think the other species will accept that? Having humanity as the protector? Some will. Others will not. But they will all respect us, and that is what matters. Fear or love. Either one works as long as people leave innocence alone. The Relentless entered orbit around Earth. Shuttlecraft began launching from the planet's surface, carrying replacement crew members and supplies. The ship would spend the next month in dock, being repaired and upgraded based on lessons learned in the battle. Jack stood on the observation deck, looking down at the planet below. Somewhere down there, engineers were analyzing every second of the battle. They were finding weaknesses and designing improvements. They were making the next generation of ships even better than the Relentless. And across human space, from Earth to Mars to the colonies in the outer systems, people were sleeping peacefully in their homes. They were safe because humanity had decided that safety was worth fighting for. They were protected because Captain Jack Morrison and thousands of others like him had chosen to serve in vessels designed to defend the innocent. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but humanity had shown that danger could be met with strength, that aggression could be answered with force, that sometimes the best way to keep the peace was to be prepared for war. And they had shown that when they sent one ship, it was the right ship. In the great archives of the Galactic Council, historians were already writing about the Battle of the Disputed Sectors. They wrote about how 300 Krell warships had been defeated by a single human vessel. They wrote about how a species only 15 years removed from first contact had changed galactic warfare forever. But most importantly, they wrote about how humanity had answered the question that every species must eventually face. When danger threatens the innocent, will you stand and fight, or will you hide and hope someone else solves the problem? Humanity had chosen to stand. They had chosen to fight, and they had chosen to win. The Relentless hung in orbit above Earth, her crew resting after their first battle. Inside her armored hull, thousands of systems stood ready to deploy again at a moment's notice. She was one ship, but she represented something much larger. She represented humanity's commitment to protecting those who could not protect themselves. Ambassador Velric had asked why humanity only sent one vessel. Now he understood the answer. They sent one vessel because one was enough. They sent one vessel to make a statement. They sent one vessel to show that humanity did not need overwhelming numbers to accomplish their goals. They just needed the right tools and the will to use them. And across the galaxy, species both friendly and hostile were learning an important lesson. Humanity might be young compared to civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. But youth did not mean weakness. It meant fresh thinking. It meant new approaches to old problems. It meant building something different and better than what came before. The Krell had learned that lesson the hard way. They had attacked expecting an easy victory and instead found defeat. Now they sat in there. Admiral Kress had seen many battles in his long career. He had commanded Krell forces in 17 major engagements across 6 different sectors of the galaxy. His people were warriors, bred for combat and raised to believe that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe. As his fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel, Kress examined the opposing forces with satisfaction. The Galactic Council had managed to gather a decent defensive fleet. Nearly 200 ships from various species, all arranged in a standard defensive formation. It was impressive by their standards. But the Krell fleet was larger. 312 warships, all battle-tested and ready for combat. Kress had spent weeks planning this assault. The Council forces would fight bravely, he expected that. But they would lose. They always lost when facing the Dominion's military might. Tactical assessment. Kress ordered his second-in-command. The officer studied his displays. Standard Council formation, Admiral. Their ships are arranged to provide mutual support in overlapping fields of fire. They will try to hold their position and force us to come to them. Predictable, Kress said. What about that large ship in the center of their formation? The tactical officer zoomed in on the vessel in question. Unknown class, Admiral. Our database has no record of this ship type. It appears to be of human origin based on the design elements and the identification signal. Humans? Kress's voice held a note of contempt. The newest members of the Council. What can one human ship do against the might of the Dominion? Analysis suggests the ship is heavily armed, Admiral. But it is isolated and outnumbered. Our standard assault pattern should overwhelm it within minutes. Kress nodded. Ignore it as a priority target, then. Focus our main attack on the command ships of the more experienced fleets. The Thranians and Zendari should be eliminated first. Once their leadership is destroyed, the rest will break formation and flee. Yes, Admiral. All ships are in position and weapons are charged. We are ready to begin the attack. Kress settled into his command chair. Another battle, another victory for the Krell Dominion. After they destroyed this fleet, the Council would have no choice but to accept Krell expansion into the disputed sectors. More colonies would fall under Dominion control. More resources would flow to the Krell homeworld. All ships begin assault pattern Theta 7, attack. The Krell fleet surged forward like a tidal wave of metal and weapons. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the two fleets as the battle began. The Council ships returned fire, their own weapons creating a brilliant display of light and destruction. On the bridge of the Relentless, Captain Jack Morrison watched the tactical display with the same calm expression he always wore. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. Krell fleet advancing on attack vector, reported Lieutenant Ben Harris from the tactical station. 312 ships confirmed. They are using a standard coordinated assault formation. Jack nodded slowly. Weapons status? All weapon systems are online and ready, Captain. Primary railgun batteries at full charge. Secondary missile systems loaded and targeting solutions calculated. Point defense grid is active. All shield generators operating at maximum capacity. Good. Jack turned to his executive officer, Commander Lisa Grant. Sound general quarters. All crew to battle stations. An alarm rang through the ship. Every crew member on the Relentless had trained for this moment. They moved quickly to their assigned positions, securing hatches and preparing their systems for combat. Lisa Grant stood beside the captain's chair, her face serious but not afraid. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from Ambassador Velric. Put him on. The Threnian ambassador appeared on the screen. His antennae were rigid with tension. Captain Morrison, the Krell are advancing rapidly. I strongly advise you to fall back into our main defensive line. Your current position leaves you exposed to their initial assault wave. Jack kept his voice calm and professional. Thank you for the concern, Ambassador. But the Relentless is positioned exactly where she needs to be. I recommend that your fleet maintain its current formation and stay out of our firing lanes. Firing lanes. Velric's voice rose slightly. Captain, you are one ship against 300. You must see reason. Pull back before it is too late. Ambassador, with all respect, you asked humanity to contribute to this fight. We have done so. The Relentless will hold this position. Please clear this communication channel. We have work to do. Jack closed the transmission before Velric could argue further. He turned to Lieutenant Harris. Tactical, you have command of all weapon systems. Fire when ready. Let us show the Krell what one human ship can do. Harris's fingers moved across his control panel. Yes, sir. Acquiring targets now. Railgun batteries locking onto the Krell forward scouts. The Relentless had been designed with one purpose in mind. When humanity learned about the dangers in the galaxy, when they discovered that species like the Krell existed, Earth's governments made a decision. They would build a military that could protect humanity's interests and defend their allies. But they would not build it the way other species did. Other species created large fleets of specialized ships. Humanity asked a different question. What if they built one ship that could do everything? What if they pushed every system beyond normal limits and created something entirely new? The result was the Relentless. Firing main railgun batteries, Harris announced. The ship shuddered slightly as massive electromagnetic accelerators launched tungsten carbide projectiles at incredible speeds. The rounds were not very large, but they were moving so fast that size did not matter. They crossed the distance to the Krell forward scouts in seconds. On his flagship, Admiral Kress was coordinating his fleet's assault when his tactical officer suddenly shouted in alarm. Admiral, we have lost contact with the forward scout screen. What do you mean, lost contact? All 12 ships, sir. No response to communications. Scanning for wreckage. Confirmed, Admiral. All 12 ships are destroyed. Kress leaned forward. Destroyed? Already, by what? Analyzing the attack pattern. Admiral, it was the human ship. High-velocity kinetic weapons. Our ship's shields could not stop the projectiles. The rounds punched clean through the hulls. Each ship was hit multiple times. Before Kress could process this information, more alarms sounded. Missile launches detected from the human vessel. Count is, Admiral, I'm reading over 500 missiles inbound. 500 missiles from one ship? Kress could not hide his disbelief. All point defense batteries open fire. Destroy those missiles. The Krell fleet's defensive systems came alive. Automated weapons tracked and engaged the incoming missiles, destroying them by the dozens. The Krell military trained extensively for missile defense. They were good at it, but not good enough. The missiles the Relentless carried were not standard weapons. Human engineers had studied the defensive systems used by every major military power in the galaxy. They had identified weaknesses and designed missiles specifically to exploit those weaknesses. The missiles were fast, maneuverable, and packed with powerful warheads. The Krell point defense systems managed to intercept and destroy nearly 400 of the missiles. It was an impressive defensive performance by any standard, but over 100 missiles got through. The explosions that followed lit up space like miniature suns. Krell ships staggered under the impacts as the warheads detonated against their hulls. Shields collapsed. Armor melted. Internal systems failed. When the light faded, 23 Krell ships were either destroyed completely or so badly damaged they had to withdraw from the battle. "Report," Kress shouted at his tactical officer. 35 ships lost or disabled, Admiral. The human vessel is continuing to fire. More missiles launching now. Kress made a decision. All ships change of plans. Concentrate all fire on that human ship. I do not care what it takes. Destroy it now. Over 100 Krell warships turned their weapons toward the Relentless. The combined firepower would have been enough to obliterate most space stations. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and missiles converged on the lone human ship. The Relentless's shields flared brilliant white as the energy hit them. The entire ship shook from the impacts. On the bridge, the lights flickered momentarily before the backup systems engaged. "Shield status?" Jack asked calmly. "Forward shields at 73% and holding steady, Captain," reported the defensive systems officer. "Compensating for the energy load now. Shield stabilizing. Damage report? Minor stress fractures detected on Deck 7, Section 4. Repair teams are responding. No casualties. All primary systems remain operational." Jack nodded. The Relentless had been built to take punishment. Her shields were powered by generators that produced more energy than some small stars. Her armor was made from materials that could withstand temperatures and pressures that would vaporize normal metals. "Continue firing," Jack ordered. "Target their heavy cruisers. Let us see how they like it." The Relentless kept up its relentless assault. Railguns fired in precise patterns. Missiles launched in waves. Energy weapons added to the destruction. And slowly, the Krell fleet began to realize they were in serious trouble. Admiral Velric watched from his flagship in stunned silence. His tactical officer kept updating the battle statistics, and each update was more